Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. It's really great to see you all here today. Real quick, if people can just pop for me in the chat, like where you're from, just give me a sense. I would love that. Just let you know where I'm from. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. You're probably going to hear my Minnesotan accent come out today. And I do talk pretty quick, so hopefully you can keep up. If I blow past anything, let us know in the chat and tell me to slow down. All right, so today we're going to be talking about how to approach YouTube for B2B content marketing, and we're going to get into some of the strategy and how to do that. But first, who am I and why should you listen to me? That's a good question. My name is Devon. I'm a Senior Client Success Manager here at RepCap. That means I spend a lot of my day thinking about strategy, executing strategy, coming up with tactics and plans. And also I'm looking in here, we've got people from Texas, awesome. California, that's great. Keep dropping them in. It's great to see y'all here. I got my start in audio video, actually. I was working at a radio station in Ireland where I did like some podcasting and documentary work. I also was a personality for a little bit as a host, so that was kind of fun. And I brought that back here to the States with me after I finished my master's degree. So I started working in podcasts with 12 Geniuses in Punk Rock HR. That's Don McPherson and Lori Rudiman, if you've ever heard their shows. If you haven't, you definitely should go take a look. And from there, I ended up here at RepCap, working on B2B content. So it's a pretty fantastic career path so far. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. It's a ton of fun, and I just love marketing because of the experimentation. Things are always changing. So hopefully you're here to learn a few tips and tricks with me today, because I'm excited to share them. I'm also going to have some surprise guests here in a little bit. I've been bringing some of my team along that are going to be helping us go through some of the tactics for YouTube. All right, so let's get into what we're talking about today. Today we are going to be talking about how to develop a YouTube content strategy that works for your brand, for your team, for your resources. We're also going to be talking about some tools that you can use to refine your search, for like how to show up for SEO on YouTube, how to make sure you're meeting your audience, and how to expand that reach and make sure that you're getting the largest audience possible on YouTube. And then last but definitely not least, we're going to talk about some best practices for videos on the platform and how to make sure they perform their best and how to get that broadest reach. All right, cool. Let's get into it. So as with any form of content that you're going to create as a marketing team, you need to have strategy behind it. So you probably already have an existing content strategy. You probably have an approach of things that you want to say. Maybe you have a content calendar. You probably for sure have a website. You're probably creating content like a guide or a blog post. So you already have a content strategy, and the bare minimum is that we make YouTube fit that strategy. The next level is that we'll actually include YouTube into that strategy from the get-go when we're coming up with whatever our content plan is. So let's get into it. One of the things that you need to know about YouTube is that it is the second most popular search engine in the world. The only search engine more popular than YouTube is Google, who actually owns YouTube, and they're very closely tied. So if you're going to be having an SEO strategy at all in your content strategy, you need to consider YouTube as an essential element to that. I'm sure you all have seen there's been some experimentation with AI and how that's going to impact the way that we get like search results on that SERP page. One of the things that we're seeing is that AI is going to be starting to pull a lot more video content. So if you're already creating video content that's related to the other thought leadership topics that you're doing, make sure that you're showing up in a way that's optimized on a platform like YouTube so that when someone Googles, they also get your YouTube video tied to that same topic. There's a bunch of other reasons to get into YouTube. One of them is that billions of people every day are using this platform to research topics. I know I do when I'm not sure about something, and maybe I'm like looking into a new client, or maybe I'm trying to figure out like how to format a guide in a new or innovative way. Or maybe I want to look into like how the heck to build something on HubSpot because a client asked for it and I've never done it before. I'm going to YouTube. I'm watching experts show me how to do something. So a lot of people are on YouTube every day. They're looking for answers, and they may not even intentionally go to YouTube. They may go to Google and end up on YouTube, finding answers that they need to their everyday tasks. The other thing is that there are 500 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. That's insane. Think about that. If you're going to put up an hour of content, you're competing with so many other hours of content, right? So if a bunch of other people aren't optimizing, that is your opportunity to optimize past them, right? To get that first spot in the YouTube search results. which is what brings me to the next point here. Most B2B marketers, I don't see them optimizing content on YouTube. They maybe don't know about it. Maybe it's not considered a priority for their team, but they're taking some form of video content, they're sticking it on YouTube, and they're just leaving it there. So we got to step up our game and beat our competitors by really giving a crap about YouTube. So to have a winning strategy next year, you need to add this in. And as we're doing our 2024 planning, bring this to your meeting. Surprise your boss. Tell them that you thought about YouTube. All right. So there are some key elements that you need to consider if you're going to do a YouTube strategy. So mark these down, be ready to bring them to your boss. The first thing is that you need something unique to address with people with your video content, right? So if you're going to go out and talk to your audience, what do you have to say that's interesting? I'm actually going to skip ahead to the next slide because I really love this. Our CEO, strategy guru, Mary Ellen, often says, what do you have to say that others aren't already saying? And she has a great litmus test that I love to put client content through, which is, if I were to take your content and stick it on somebody else's platform, maybe it's your biggest competitor, would your audience be able to tell that that's not your competitor's content? And I think it's really easy to do this when we think about it in terms of like website stuff, right? We could take your web copy, like your hero or your tagline. And if we were to take that and stick it on your competitor's website, would it stand out as being not their content? That's easy. But when we think about it in the form of video, if I were to take your webinars or a recording of a podcast that you did, or maybe you did an explainer video for me, and I were to take that and stick it on your biggest competitor's YouTube channel, would your audience be able to tell that that's not their content, that it's your content? The answer needs to be yes. Your audience needs to be able to tell that that content is yours. It's tied to your brand identity. It meets their needs. It talks about your products or your services or your company culture, right? So you need to have your brand voice come out in that content that you're creating. And so when you're thinking about this, think about what matters most to your clients. Think about what their pain points are both inside and outside of work. If your company culture is fun and adventurous, maybe you should be looking at something like YouTube Shorts. If you're kind of serious and buttoned up, maybe you work in financial services, maybe you want to have something that's more of like a newscast thing where you're like informing people of what's going on in the industry, right? So there are different opportunities to try different things, but you need to tailor it to your audience in a way that's strategic, that meets them where they're at, that kind of entertains them, and that definitely educates them. All right, so back to some other elements for success. You do need to post on a regular basis. So if you're going to have video content and you might be really ambitious and you're like, I'm going to post every week, we're going to post some sort of 10-minute clip from a webinar. Very ambitious. I love that for you, but you may not have the resources. So if you are finding yourself, you're trying to put out this content on a regular basis, it's just not happening, feel free to dial it back. I'd rather that you're on a regular basis with monthly posts or every other week posts than trying to post every single day. There's actually a really hilarious influencer, wannabe influencer. I wish I could pull up his video for you guys. Maybe I'll send it in the email afterwards. But it's this guy who is like, he's like, I dropped out of college because I'm going to become a YouTube creator. So I think his name is Create Tyler. If anybody knows who this is, drop it in the chat. I'm trying to remember how to spell his name, but it's really funny. Anyway, he does this big video saying that he's going to be a YouTube content creator and he's here to like, deliver the content that people want. And then he just doesn't post for like 6 months. And then 6 months later, he's like, sorry, everyone, I was so busy, but now I'm committed to daily posts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then he just doesn't ever post again. So don't be like that guy. Make sure that you're showing up with a regular cadence. It'll make it easier on your team because they'll know how often they need to produce content. And it'll make it easier on your audience to become a fan of your content because they know, oh, there's a new video coming out, right? So a regular basis, create a content calendar, and ideally marry that content up with your other campaigns that you're running. Maybe if you're running a campaign targeting someone in the manufacturing industry, you make a video about your product or about the issues that the manufacturing industry are facing and how it ties back to a service that you provide, right? So content calendars are key. The next thing here, you want to make sure you're optimizing your videos all the way from a catchy title to an interesting end screen that prompts them to want to continue their content journey. We'll get into this quite a bit once I bring the rest of the team on to show you how you can do that. But There are so many more ways to optimize your video than just adding a simple description and a title, like so many more. So get into that, get into the nitty gritty, look at the advanced settings, and make sure that everything is optimized to give your viewer the best journey possible. The next thing is that you're going to want to make sure that you're promoting your YouTube content across multiple channels. I do think a lot of B2B marketers actually already do some of this. And actually where they're falling short is optimizing on YouTube, but they are putting it out on other channels. So you might be taking, say, a webinar, like one that we're in today. You might take that, you might stick it on YouTube, and then you go and put the YouTube link on a landing page, and then you just kind of leave it there for people to go watch it on your landing page, but you didn't optimize it on YouTube, right? The better strategy here is to take that video, like this webinar, you're going to put it on YouTube, you're going to optimize it for search, add in some long tail keywords in there for in case Google's looking at it, put it on a landing page, you're going to send it out in an email afterwards. Maybe you take it and you cut it into little clips that go into emails, it goes into a social campaign, maybe you put some paid spend behind it, right? Find the channels that make the most sense to meet your audience where they hang out and get that video in front of them. So for different types of videos, there's a different strategy for each. So I can't give you an exact recipe there, but just think through, like, it doesn't have to stop on YouTube, right? You put it here and then you stick it elsewhere. Find other places to meet people. The last thing here is to test, update, improve, and repeat. So when you are going to put up your content the first time, it's going to be okay, right? You're just going to stick it up there and it'll hopefully do okay-ish. But then maybe you do another video that does way better, and you're going to learn from that, and you're going to take, maybe you optimize it for a different keyword, right? So maybe you're learning which keywords your audience is paying attention to. So I want you to test different keywords, test different tags, test different title types and thumbnails and where you're putting it out on the internet, and then figure out where you can make improvements, and then keep repeating that process, because at the end of the day, that's all we can do as marketers, right? Is experiment, experiment, experiment. All right. So let's talk about the ROI real quick. If you are, it's 2023, we're about to go into 2024, you want to pitch to your team that you should really focus on YouTube, there are some really great metrics that you can get from YouTube that you can use to inform the rest of your marketing efforts. So if you're going to put a video on YouTube, you can look at things like views, a very basic one that you want to look at. Does anyone care to watch your content? Next, watch time. How long do people stick around when they watched your video? Did they drop off after a minute? Did they stick around and watch a whole hour-long webinar video? Those are important metrics to look at. Likes are pretty high intent. I feel like people don't like videos that often on YouTube. So if you're getting likes, that's significant. Looking at subscribers to your channel, right? Especially if you're going to have like an educational channel, you want to see those numbers grow. Comments, people are going to hopefully comment on your video. I don't see it as often in B2B as we would see in like a B2C video. But if they do comment, make sure you're getting back to them in a timely fashion and adding some sort of value. Maybe you could offer them a guide in the comments or something. You can also see, once you have enough videos and enough traffic to your YouTube page, you can see some audience demographics. So you can see things like their age, their gender, their location. I know you can see a lot of this in Google Analytics as well, but it's helpful to see it in YouTube because you can see which segment of your audience is choosing to watch your content in a video format versus consuming it in a written format or a podcast format. And maybe there's a certain way to market to those people that you wouldn't market in a blog post, right? So do a little bit more experimentation. And then the last thing here is you can see their traffic sources. So deep in the settings of YouTube, you can see if people are watching the video on the YouTube platform and like finding it that way, or if they're finding it on a third-party thing like your website. So that can be helpful to figure out, is the channel optimized and getting traffic, or are we just doing a really good job of distributing it elsewhere and getting the views on, say, a landing page or an email? So there's some interesting numbers in here. Of course, what metrics matter most to your team is going to depend on your strategy, your goals, the industry that you're in, whatever your team's working on. But there's a lot of data here that you can use to inform your marketing. All right, so the team's on board. It's January 2024. You're ready to get started. You have nothing on your YouTube channel. You maybe have like a branded cover image, and that's it. I want to give you some ideas of places where you can take content that you're already creating and put it out on YouTube. And I think if the team is in here and they're able to drop a poll for me, I would love to know what type of content the rest of you are already creating. If you're creating any of these and there is a poll, please go ahead and vote on that. But I would love to know, could we use something like a podcast, right? So if you're going to be creating a podcast, could we take that and stick it on YouTube? Could we put a webinar on YouTube like this? Can I take an explainer video, a testimonial? Are you talking to clients? Anywhere where there's an opportunity to capture video, it's an opportunity to create YouTube content. I'm going to go check and see if I can see the answer to these polls. Y'all, please go vote for me. Or not. That's fine. We can move on. Oh, wait, I can see all your votes. Okay, great. Ooh, we see a lot of podcast footage. Awesome. I love that as a podcaster. Explainer videos, that's great content that can be used on YouTube. You can make it into like educational content. You can even have an educational series potentially, depending on how many videos you have. Webinar footage, fantastic. We love webinar footage for YouTube. All right, cool. So I have some examples of this that I wanted to show you all. So forgive my screenshots. One example of taking some like longer form content and repurposing it is one of our clients. His name's Ryan Estes. Ryan Estes is a keynote speaker. He does like 70 something speeches a year. He is a total professional and he's super busy. So we don't have time to stick him in a studio and get video of him all the time, right? What we've done in many of these cases is taken full speeches and cut them down into really exceptional points that he made, right? He can curate them into a playlist. If you go to his channel, he has so much content. And a lot of it is just repurposed keynotes that he's done, either virtual or in person. And then whenever possible, we'll stick him in the studio and he'll do something direct to camera. Maybe he's digesting a portion of one of those keynotes, or maybe he was inspired by something on his travels. And we're delivering something to the audience that's bite-sized that can be used. So if you're looking for some ideas about how to take longer form content and repurpose it, I highly recommend you check out Ryan Estes's YouTube. I have some other ideas just to show you here of similar, like I'm talking just some basic distribution things that we can do here. Acteris, they take their webinars and they put a nice little thumbnail on there. You can see some informative copy. They just use the same title of their webinar and they put it up on their YouTube into a curated playlist of events and webinars. You'll see they get quite a few views on these, so that could be a great way to get some more content. And then also, I grabbed a clip from one of our clients, Amplify Talent. This is their show, Redefining Work. This is a podcast show that's recorded in a really nice platform that gives us high quality audio and high quality video. I will say we didn't forget to put a thumbnail here. I just put my cursor over it when I took the screenshot so I could show you. We collect raw footage that looks like this image here on the left. I don't know if you can see my cursor. And we'll put like little logo overlays in the corner to keep it branded, just really, really simple branding here. And then on the right, you can see what it looks like with a thumbnail over it. It's informative, eye-catching, it's branded. It's got the episode title in there. That way people can go click in and watch these episodes. And they do perform well. People like to go watch. All right, so you're like, this is all great, Devon. I'm already doing half of this. Let's take it to the next level. That's fantastic. We love the next level. So if you're going to be doing this, I have a couple examples. If you want to take a screenshot of this real quick, you can. I'm actually going to cut to examples and talk through some of these. So if you're going to do podcast content, record on a better platform. Get content that gets you that high quality video like I was showing you of Amplify Talent's Redefining Work. So you can have that really high resolution video. There's nothing cluttering the image and you have that high quality audio. If you're going to be doing webinars, I have two great examples here on the top. On the top left, you're going to see Lorraine Lee. She did a webinar for Managing Editor and she used a really cool tool called Prezi. So if you're like me, you may have used Prezi way back in the day in college because they had really cool presentation formats, but they have really upped their game. They have these overlays that you can put over your live stream video. So you can almost be like a newscaster. So if I had a clear wall, I could be pointing to things, right? I could be like Colin Jost on SNL and pointing to my jokes. You know, it would be fun. It'd be different. And I think it also creates really nice on-demand content. So you can have good YouTube thumbnails that look like this. You can take it and use it on social, and it's already branded. It's already in the video natively, and it looks fantastic. Another example is BetterWorks here in the top right corner. They're using, I believe, BigMarker, the platform that we're in today, which I love because it allows you to split up your speakers and see everyone equally. I know we've all been on those Zoom webinars, which work, but they don't let you see each speaker, right? So if I have a presentation deck, I'm just a tiny little person in the corner and you can barely see my face. what I love about Big Marker is it allows you to divide up that screen differently and be able to see everyone that's involved. On the bottom here, I wanted to show you an example of like elevating your content. SEMrush, of course, they know what they're doing when it comes to optimization, and I just think that they're really cute, so I grabbed this page. But if you are going to be creating content that's educational, maybe you already are doing this research, right? Like you're doing blog posts that answer long tail questions that your audience are asking. You can take that and turn it into a YouTube video, right? You can answer that question in a blog post format. You can answer that question as a video, talking to the camera, maybe give some educational resources. You could use Prezi, and it could be over the top and cool. And then you can optimize those videos for search so that they're found both in the YouTube algorithm and the Google algorithm. You can paste them in each other's descriptions, and next thing you know, you've just got a little busy ball of amazing optimization. So I think SEMrush, they're always a great resource to go check out and get some inspiration. Plus, I just think that their thumbnails are cute. They're all a little bit different, but they have the same guy's face. They're easy to read and they're eye-catching. A couple more examples for you. If you decide to do shorts, which I think is the next level, but does require the time and the resources to put together, the shorts can be great for brand awareness and for kind of building that affinity with your prospective buyers. So if you want to be able to talk about like something that's like joking, or maybe you want to get into something serious, you could cut up a webinar. Shorts are a great place to go experiment with that. The example that I have on screen is from one of our clients, BetterWorks. I really love this one that I pulled out here on the left. They were like talking about what type of office employee are you? So are you the type of person who has like the loud shoes or the smelly lunch or talks too loud on their phone in the office? The screen grab that I grabbed is me. I'm the one with like way too many things on my desk. I always have like 5 beverages and 1,000 decorations. You can't see them right now, but they're all in front of me. So I think it's a great way just to like make your audience laugh while still talking about something that's relevant to your product. So go ahead and experiment with that too. All right, so I feel like we're probably gonna get into the tactics of this. You guys probably have questions. I'm gonna bring my surprise guest on, which is my multimedia team from RepCap. I should say my colleagues, really. I've got Elizabeth, who is our creative director. We've got Michael, our multimedia producer, and Grace, who is our multimedia production assistant, all joining us today because I figured, why would I pretend to know all the tactics when the people who actually do this work day in and day out could join us? So you guys can say hi.
Hello.
So hi, and thanks,
Hey,
Devon, for
everybody.
bringing us on.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have y'all. And at this point, if people had any questions from the strategy work that I was talking through, this would be a great time to start dropping that in the Q&A. I can work it in here. I have a few questions for the team that I'm going to be asking just to get us started. But if we're digging into something and you want more context, drop it in the chat, drop it in the Q&A, and we will go grab that for you. Do you guys quick want to say kind of what y'all do on a daily basis, just so people kind of know your background and what you're doing at RepCap?
Sure.
Cool. Maybe we can make Elizabeth start.
Okay, I'll start. Yes, I'm Elizabeth Haight. I'm the creative director at RepCap. So I do all the directing of the creative. What does that mean? So we do podcasts, we do audio, or what is podcasts, we do video, we make all kinds of like printed materials or websites, anything that you could want, we will do in any form of mixed media. And I'm making sure you're going to stay on brand. It's going to look great. It's going to meet your goals, that it arrives in a timely fashion. So I really love the team and everything that we're doing at RepCap. So I'm very excited to bring our work into the world. My background is in video. I've been doing it since I was 15, so a very long time. And I got a full scholarship to the Art Institute of Seattle just for video, based on the video that I did in high school. So it's really been ingrained in me my whole life. It's the only thing I've really been passionate about career-wise. So I'm a little bit of an expert. I started working with Real Player and Real Networks in Seattle in the early 2000s when I was living out there. And I was actually working with them to develop ways to bring new ways they could use their player to bring video into the world now. So before YouTube, before we had Windows Media Player, all of the QuickTime and all that stuff. So that was the very first thing. So I have been in it from the start. And I've worked with companies. I ran the video department at Milwaukee Tool when I lived in Wisconsin. I worked for Associated Bank, the Bank of the Packers, the Brewers, Milwaukee Film. So I got to work with all of those brands. So I've been a player in the game for a long time. yeah. It's what I can't get away from it. I tried to get out of it and I couldn't. It just follows me for the rest of it.
No, we're pulling you back in. We need you.
Yes. Yes, I will stay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And we also have Michael with us today. Michael, where are you joining from?
I'm joining from Brooklyn right now. Pleasure to be with you here. Yes. So hi everyone. I'm Michael. I'm multimedia producer at RepCap. And so I do a lot of audio and video editing. And primarily I'm involved with a lot of the podcasts that we produce here at RepCap. So I have my hand in everything from start to finish, like planning the episodes, interviewing the guests, editing the audio, script writing, and then publishing it at the end. So I have a lot of experience with publishing and creating the podcast that we do.
Yeah, awesome. And definitely not least here, we have Grace with us as well, who, full transparency, if we look alike, we are related.
Indeed we are. I'm the multimedia production assistant, so I am helping with video editing, design work, a little bit of audio editing, mostly the clips that you put on social media. I help with those, and I've been helping with a lot of our YouTube distribution, which is why I'm here today. So yeah,
Grace very much has her fingers in all the tactics of YouTube. So I'm excited to have you all here as some experts, because I have some questions for y'all while we wait for some questions from the audience. The first one here, I'm going to throw it at you, Elizabeth. So people are choosing to put together some YouTube content. They've added to their content strategy. Like, what should that look like? How can we create and capture the best video content, especially like in the virtual workspace?
Yeah, so as far as how it looks, right, looking nice adds a lot to your presentation and makes you seem more credible, whether you are or not. So I'm a very visual person. We all are visual people, so we want to make sure that it looks good. And how does it look good? Well, you first want to make sure that you're positioning your camera, your laptop, whatever it is that you're using, so that you're looking right into the camera. We've got good space above, to the side, and below. So we're like kind of like a medium close up here. I am looking at my MacBook Pro, but I have it propped up on a really thick, like old school encyclopedia. And then I have something else to hold my laptop. So it's angled right. And I'm comfortable. I'm not trying to fit in and not operating naturally here. So, and I have a nice background. I don't have clutter in the background. So you want to make sure your background is well lit. What did I do? I made sure that none of my books had weird titles or any personal sensitive information in the background, because that can be distracting or expose. Like when I worked for Associated Bank, we had to make sure that whoever was on camera didn't have any bank or sensitive material behind them. So that kind of thing. Talk into the camera. So it's not natural for me to talk into a little glowing dot, but it looks like I'm talking to you. So that's a much nicer presentation. Yes, you could have a hack, like you could put, like Devon has, a little sticky note, or cut out some photos, or whatever you need to do. Put a little doll or whatever you want behind the camera or next to the camera. So it is not natural, but practice it a little bit and see if that comes more natural to you. I think we're all kind of more used to these days talking into a void, seeing ourselves on screen. If you have to hide yourself on screen, do that. I don't really like seeing myself in real time, but I will have to edit this footage later, so that's going to be hard. And they also have made a lot of improvements in camera, so we're looking really well. Like we've got HD cameras now. We have these cameras that will follow you. I'm at a standing desk. They will follow you wherever you're moving. That is a problem we've noticed with some of our clients and people on camera that have these moving cameras, because now it's looking weird. It's okay if you're in a meeting, but we're trying to emulate being in a studio perhaps, and the studio it's not going to be like that when you're shooting an interview. So if you can disable those features on a camera that moves, do that. And as far as turning other things off, anything that makes noise. So before you start your presentation, turn off your email, turn off like any programs that might be open that, oh, what if a video is playing on the screen you happen to have like YouTube open or something like that. Everything except for what you absolutely need should be turned off. And the same for your environment. If you have your phone, turn that off. If you need to put a note on your door, do not come in here. Don't ring the doorbell. Whatever you can do to mimic kind of like a studio environment, and that will help you as well. I think that's
those are some great tips.
Yeah, I could go on forever, but these are the base. If you cover those like simple basic steps, you will look better.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier, Devon, on Prezi, and that's something that's really going to make your videos stand out and look good. And so another way that it's relevant to YouTube is that I'm sure everyone's watched webinars on demand before where the slides are huge and the speakers are in a little tiny window off to the side, but something like Prezi allows the slides and the speaker to, their windows are coexisting, and so it has that replay value, and it's something that's really easy to set up. So like the software is really easy to set up with your webcam. It's not something that requires advanced knowledge in motion graphics or anything like that, but it looks like you do. And so it's like the little things like that I feel are just really good with keeping viewers' attention. So definitely recommend checking out Prezi.
That's a good one, yeah. I wanted to quick talk about just like doing the virtual recordings, because I think a lot of this advice is great for like the remote recordings, but when we're trying to capture that content, I feel like, especially as marketers, when we're like a one-person team, right? We get like one take. We want one really good take of that content. So, Michael, you might be the best person to speak to this. When we're doing this recording virtually, what's like the best platform for that?
So there's a lot of yeah. So yeah, I definitely do. There's a lot of options out there these days, and I feel like most people want to gravitate toward Zoom because that's what we've become most familiar with. But some people might not even realize that there's other options. So if you want to watch recordings that were captured from, I mean, if you do watch recordings from platforms like that, you'll see they're very low quality. If there's an issue with someone's internet, it's going to show up in the recording, and there's nothing that you can do about that in post-production. And like if there's any crosstalk between participants, you can't edit that out later. So there's not a whole lot you can do with recordings on Zoom. So what I would recommend is a platform called Riverside to record virtually. So what that platform does is it records each person's track individually, and it's saving the footage locally to the person's browser, and it uploads it to the cloud as the recording is happening. So it makes sure that you're grabbing the highest quality footage with video, whether video or audio, and that it's not affected by someone's internet connection also. So all those lags and skips that you might have seen on Zoom meetings, they're not going to show up in the finished product. And because they're all on separate tracks, you'll have the freedom to edit those very cleanly in post-production. So yeah, I recommend Riverside, and then Squadcast is a close second. But the reason I say Riverside over Squadcast is that you can actually record in 4K with Riverside now, whereas Squadcast is only 1080p at the moment. So Riverside has that slight edge over Squadcast.
Yeah,
so
both are great. We like them both, yeah. You mentioned post-production, so I want to follow up with something around that. Post for audio and for video, you're talking about grabbing that Riverside content, but if we're like a team of one, or maybe we're a team of like three, we need to figure out how to take this content and make it like look good. We need a top and tail. Maybe somebody slipped up and they said the completely wrong thing in the middle of that webinar, and you want to like take it out. So Elizabeth, I know you have spent so much of your time doing some edits and understanding how to like make really high quality videos, but also like quick and dirty videos. Do you have any recommendations for how people can do this stuff in post? And is there any like platforms that they should use? Is there any like training that people should try to get? I mean, especially for these 1 to 3 person marketer teams with limited resources.
Yeah, I think the best option and what we use and what has kind of become industry standard is the Creative Cloud bundle from Adobe. That one is about $55 a month. That includes everything you could need: Photoshop, Illustrator. After Effects is very advanced, but does motion graphics, and Premiere, which is what we use to edit our videos. And a lot of like production houses, it's big now. It didn't used to be over the years, but it has come to be like the #1 editing platform. Premiere is got everything you need from beginning to end to create an excellent production. Premiere Rush is like the very, very, very scaled down version of it, kind of like what iMovie would be. That's also included. There's Audition, which you can use to edit audio and enhance your audio. You can edit all kinds of podcasts, whatever you want with that. So that I recommend. I think it's about $55 a month now. It's a subscription based. You can do it annually or monthly, whatever works for you. So there's low commitment. It used to be that you had to invest like thousands of dollars in an editing platform, and you owned the actual like DVDs to load onto your computer. And so it's not like that anymore. It's very flexible. You can use it and not use it as you need. If you find you're no longer needing something or you want to change your plan, you can do that. So that's what we do. And it's good for a team environment as well. Final Cut used to be, that's Apple's software, used to be like a big player, but about 10 years ago, they switched and now they're not as in depth as they used to be, but they still have really good tools. But that's a bigger investment, and I think it's like $300 and you're buying the whole thing. So I recommend doing Creative Cloud.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We actually have some questions in here too that I want to get to because I think they're kind of related to like editing. One person asked us, how long should the videos be on YouTube? I know from my work, I usually like try to aim for 8 minutes or longer. The longer the video, the better it will perform because of course YouTube wants to keep you on their platform. But do any of you have some recommendations there around length? I would say 8+. I like definitely not the 2, 3, 4 minute videos, but any other recommendations that you guys have seen for best practices? No.
Grace,
I
what
would
do you
say,
think?
I was just gonna say, if it is a longer video, make sure that their attention is grabbed very early on. Longer videos can be successful, but with autoplay nowadays, if people's attention isn't grabbed when they scroll over your video, they're probably not going to click on it and want to watch a video that has like a blank screen while you're setting up for your webinar or something like that. So if you are going to upload a webinar, just make sure that you're jumping right into the video, maybe edit it beforehand to cut out that beginning bit while you're waiting for presenters to join.
Yeah, or like cut out me today welcoming all of you to this webinar.
Yeah.
Just jump straight into it.
Just in case this question was to ask how long videos should be up on YouTube, in terms of like seeing the results of your video, sometimes you won't see the results of anything for like 6 months. So you definitely want to like keep something up for a while before writing it off as not getting the engagement you wanted or not getting the success that you wanted.
Yeah, kind of like with blog content, right? With all things that are SEO, we got to let them breathe out there in the wild for a bit before we can make a judgment.
Right.
It's totally fair. I do want to get us into some of the like tactical sides of like how to do SEO for YouTube. First though, just because I'm not sure how else we'll be able to fit this in, Katie, you asked a really good question here about like steps for planning out and scripting a YouTube video. I think it depends on the content that you're creating, which I know is probably not the exact answer that you're hoping for. But I think you do want to think about it like in a storyboard format. I know Michael does a lot of this when it comes to like podcast editing, where we want to create a story, right? So planning like segments, and it depends on the length of your video too. If it's a 10-minute one, you could probably script it pretty easy. But if you're going to do like, say, a 30-minute how-to video or something, you might want to record in segments. But Michael, I can let you speak to how you kind of storyboard, and maybe that can give you some ideas, Katie, for how to create yours.
Mm-hmm. So something that I found has been really helpful in the last couple of years and that I use for pretty much everything I do, whether it's video content or a podcast audio episode, is a software called Descript. And so what that does is if you have multiple interviews, you can upload those to the software. It'll generate an AI transcript, and you can basically lay out everything. So it's like you get it like a very visual representation of all the content that you want to include. And it makes it very intuitive also to just kind of like get rid of the things that you don't need, copy and paste the things that you do want. And yeah, it's very easy to use, and it doesn't require like a lot of like advanced software knowledge. If you don't use Descript, I would recommend doing like maybe getting an AI transcript from something, maybe from Rev, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And then just doing like a classic storyboarding on Microsoft Word, like that works also. And just kind of like seeing what kind of content you have and then what you want to do with it.
I think too, there's an element here to keep in mind around like your talent for who's making the video. I think certain people respond to outlines better than others. Some people want to have everything scripted word for word, and then some other people as performers, they prefer to have bullet points, right? So kind of knowing who your talent is for that video can inform how much you really need to script. But I would start first in terms of like content strategy. Start with your big idea. What is the thing that you want to say? What do you want to communicate to people? What is something new or novel that you're explaining in your video? And then walk it back. I like to usually choose somewhere between 3 to 5 like key points, kind of like you would back in college or high school when you would write like a paper. Think like your big thesis, your 3 supporting points, and then a conclusion to wrap it all together. So I think that that's a great way to format content no matter what the medium. So if that's written, if that's going to be audio, or if it's video, that's probably a great way to walk it back too. Okay, so we'll get into some technical stuff here. I think, Grace, I might start with you and pick on you. When we're gonna start our YouTube journey here, and we want to create some video content that we know will be related to what our people are searching. How should I go about that? Like, how can I do some YouTube SEO research?
Yeah, so there's a few different options. I'll have to be biased though, and tell you that our favorite, which is TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy is like one of the most popular, most recommended YouTube SEO helpers. And once you have it hooked up, it makes SEO research, SEO implementation really, really simple. They've got this great tool called the Keyword Explorer, and it allows you to see what kind of keywords are related to the topic that you're looking for, what kind of search results come up when you are looking up the terms that you are interested in producing a video about. And then it also kind of tells you what keyword is best for optimizing, like what would be easier for you to optimize, what fits the content that is on your channel already, and then what kind of competition you have out there. So it gives you like a score. It makes it really easy, and not like anyone could do it, but it makes it so like anyone could kind of figure it out. And if Keyword Explorer isn't an option for you, if you couldn't use TubeBuddy, TubeBuddy also recommends another option. I think it was called Video Queue or VidQ. It's like VIDLQ. That's another option that's recommended, but I think TubeBuddy is definitely going to be your best bet.
Awesome. So we've come up with some keywords. We've got our video. It's time to optimize. So I'm gonna pick on Grace and Michael again here. So I know both of you are usually doing the actual like day-to-day tactics of uploading client videos, optimizing them for maximum reach. What are some best practices that people should keep in mind when they're doing their video optimizations? I know I threw out a couple earlier, but what are some of the ones that are like key and absolutely important that people get to?
Yeah, so I'll start with this, and I'll mention a couple before I turn it over to Grace. But so first, when you want to edit and publish something with your audience in mind, one of the things that Devon mentioned earlier in grabbing people's attention is having a thumbnail that's eye-catching and lets people know what's going to be happening in the video. So you want to include things like branded graphics for your organization, a headshot of the speaker if you have one, and then what's really important is having text that's legible and stands out with like an eye-catching subject, but just making sure that as people are scrolling through, they'll see, you know, what the video is going to be about. And also worth noting today, something that Grace mentioned earlier is when you're scrolling through videos, a lot of videos will autoplay when you're hovering over them. So while the thumbnail is important, the potential viewer like won't be seeing it for very long. But instead they're going to see the first moments of your video auto-playing. So something that you want to keep in mind when you're editing video is, and Devon mentioned this earlier about how, you know, people's attention is like limited, and there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of YouTube footage uploaded every minute. So you have seconds to grab people's attention before they scroll on to something else. So if you have like a long video, like a webinar or a podcast episode, include like a little snippet of a really important moment in the beginning. And that way you're going to hook the viewer, you're going to encourage them to watch all the way through instead of spending those valuable, 10 seconds at the beginning without like, the viewer still like wondering what's going on before they move on. So you'll have a better chance that they'll stick around because they want to hear like the elaboration or see how the video will play out instead of you wasting time at the beginning. So, and then the other thing that I'll mention before I turn it over to Grace is that captions are really important, both for accessibility and for people that are just scrolling through videos with their sound off. So you want to make sure that everybody is able to engage with your video no matter what their situation might be. And so I mentioned this earlier, so I'll come back to it, but a service like Rev, where you can upload your videos and have an actual human generate a caption file to attach to your video, that's really important. And so yeah, and like otherwise YouTube is going to generate captions for you and they're often not great. And so it can be really difficult to follow. So I definitely recommend getting captions from like a cleaner option like Rev.
Yeah, and those auto-generated ones can also sometimes be damaging for your brand too. Like if it guesses the wrong word or misnames your product or something like that, especially like if you work in a highly regulated industry, you don't want to rely on the auto-generated ones. I always forget about that. And then I remember and I'm like, oh shoot, we got to make sure that these are top notch. All right, Grace, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah. I think that like optimizing your YouTube video is really similar to setting up your resources section on your company's website. You want to keep in mind SEO optimization, but you also want to keep the user experience in mind. And so there's a bunch of different things you can do to make your video easier to use. It can drive more traffic to the rest of your channel, and it can be easier for people to find. So first off, your title. Once you pick your keywords, you want to make sure that that keyword is in your title. If it's not in your title, you're not going to rank for that keyword. And secondly, your description for your YouTube video. You definitely want to have your keyword or keywords show up in that description at least a couple times, and definitely within that first sentence. So whatever your main keyword is, you want that to be in that first sentence of your description. We also recommend highlighting key moments in your YouTube video. This helps people kind of scroll through your YouTube video, and if they maybe don't want to hear the intro, but they're really interested in this topic that you get to in the middle of the video, they can easily identify that and skip ahead.
And those are good for YouTube or for Google search, right? Because I sometimes see it where like it'd be a suggested YouTube clip or something. So those could be helpful too. Sorry to interject. I was just really
definitely. You want to add chapters. They call it chapters on YouTube, but key moments, whatever you want to call it, you want to add those in. We usually put them in as timestamps in our description. We also recommend linking to a blog post, a related reading that visitors could go and look at for more information. That helps drive more traffic to your website as well. And then looking outside of your description, you want to make sure that you have an end screen on your video. This helps drive people to your YouTube channel. So that helps them stick around and be like, oh, that video looks interesting too. Or this is a related video on the same topic. Maybe there's something in here that I also am interested in. Same with your playlist. So you want to make sure that your video is attached to a relevant playlist. And you can add that in the beginning of your video. It'll pop up right on the side here. You've probably seen them when you're on YouTube. And that can help people, again, continue to check out your YouTube channel and check out relevant videos. The thumbnail, super important. And subtitles. I think that is about it. Relevant tags is another thing that's important to add, but YouTube recommends not overdoing the tags because you can get marked as spam. So you definitely don't want to add tags that are not actually fitting to your video. A common mistake is people will add tags and they'll start adding any tag that's kind of related to their video. But if you start adding tags that you're not actually talking about, YouTube's like, that's not right. You're not talking about this. You're being fake. So you don't want to do that, but you definitely want to add a couple tags, and that will help people kind of, if they're misspelling their search result or something, like if they're not looking it up right, the tags help them find your video.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So I just want to remind people to drop any questions that you have in the chat. I know we're kind of going through a lot of different tactical things. So if you have any questions about something we've brought up, or maybe you want more information or a recommendation, maybe you have a really unique circumstance that you want our opinion on, feel free to drop it into either the chat or the Q&A. I'm looking at both of them, so we're happy to take a look. I know we have a few minutes left here, so I thought it might be helpful, Grace, to show people where these settings are on the back end of YouTube. Maybe you could pull up a webinar example that we've done in the past just to show people, like, where are the tags to add? What the heck is an end screen? How do I add a playlist? Because I think those are really essential steps that are sometimes just frustrating and a barrier to go try to figure out. So I'm not sure if you're able to share your screen while we do that.
Yeah,
That would be
definitely.
really cool.
I'm actually going to share, this will be meta a little bit. I'm going to share one of our videos.
Oh, Jesus, me.
Our most recent video from Devon, the do's and don'ts of B2B podcasting. So you can see here our keyword that we were targeting was B2B podcasting. So we've got that in our title. And we've also got it in our description quite a few times. And then down below, you'll see this is where we have our key moments. So this is where we are pulling out the different sections we think people might be interested in, some key topics that we're touching on, and then you'll also see that we're directing people back to our website, to a relevant pillar page, blog post, guide, anything you want to direct people to. And this is where TubeBuddy really comes in handy as well. You'll see that right here on the best practices tab, this is where they give you recommendations. And it's sort of helpful if I named a lot of different things you can do to optimize your video. This helps you kind of remember, it's like a checklist. It says 8 out of 9 complete. So actually I can show you right here. So it'll show you all of the things that it recommends that you do to make your video optimized. And once you do them, it gives you a nice little green check, which is very satisfying. And that's really helpful. Like I said, just to remind you, it's easy to forget all of these different steps, especially if you're new to YouTube. We've got a great thumbnail here with the title nice and big, Devon's face, very prominent so people can see who's presenting. We've got it on 2 different playlists, and we've got our playlist organized based on topic or based on year, so we keep things relevant for our audience. Down below here is where you're going to add your tags. So we've got a couple here, but we don't have too many. You don't want to go crazy with your tags. You can see this is our main keyword that we're targeting here, and it's identifying that. And then this is another great tool from TubeBuddy. It kind of gives you relevant tags based on keyword score, and that can also kind of help you identify keywords if you're not going to use the Keyword Explorer tool. And then up above here on the side is where you're going to find where you can add your subtitles. You just upload them, make sure you have it with the timing. And then your end screen is where you add in, we've got our logo, we've got our recommended video, and then the cards. This is where you can put in your playlist that you want people to go and check out. We recommend putting it in the beginning of your video, but let's say Devon were to mention, we've got a whole slew of videos about this specific topic, and she mentioned it in the middle of the video. Then you can have it pop up in the middle of the video as well. So yeah, here's the back end.
Thank you. And I think one thing that's really interesting about those end screens is that from a strategy perspective, you can really use those to curate your viewers' experience and to hopefully get them into a little like watching wormhole, right? Like I'm sure we've all done that where you get on YouTube and next thing you know, you've been there for like an hour. So you can have the bottom videos. I know you can customize what's on that end screen. We usually recommend having the subscribe button in the bottom right, but in the bottom left, you could do a playlist. You could also let it just pick whatever YouTube's algorithm thinks your viewer most wants to watch out of your library next. Or you can also like choose a specific video to push them into. So let's say I was doing a how-to series and I just did like the 101 video course. I could have it automatically push them to the 102 course, right? So when you're thinking through that content calendar and how you want things to marry together, there's some steps there within the optimization on YouTube where you can curate that journey for your people. I know we're running out of time, so if you guys have questions, go ahead and drop them in. With the last 5 minutes, though, I would love to talk to you guys about shorts because I feel like I'm not even that old and I'm scared to do shorts, reels, and TikToks. Like it's not my jam, and I'm like afraid of being laughed at by like 19-year-olds. So let's talk about it, how to create it, what the heck is going on with it. I think Grace and Michael, you two on our team have had the most experience with this because we've created some shorts for clients. What do you think about it? That's a really broad question, but like what's going on with these shorts?
Yeah. I think YouTube Shorts is really YouTube's way of sort of keeping up with all of the different social media platforms. You know, you've got TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, and now you've got YouTube Shorts. So they're videos that are less than a minute long, which doesn't give you a lot of time to really dive deep into anything, and that's sort of the whole point. You really want that short video to be really impactful or funny or interesting, eye-catching ideally. If you have someone on your team that can make fun, you know, TikTok style videos for your YouTube Shorts, that's great, but not everyone does. And so sometimes we will take a really impactful, you know, 30-second clip of something with some thought leadership in it or something kind of provocative that we're saying, and put that as a YouTube short. And that increases your visibility quite a bit. A lot of people are scrolling through shorts that don't want to sit and watch an hour-long presentation on YouTube, but they're fine listening to a 30-second clip of that. And then that can drive traffic to your website. It can help with your brand visibility. It's a really cool feature. I like it. And it's kind of easier to do because you don't need to put as much work into it, into like the description and stuff. So I like shorts.
I do too. And I think from a strategic standpoint, you don't always need to approach shorts as a B2B marketer like a B2C marketer would. I think a great example is like if anyone's ever seen like Duolingo's TikToks, Reels, Shorts. Duolingo does really great content, but they're not targeting a B2B buyer. They're targeting a B2C buyer. So they have like a lot of jokes and they've got their mascot out like messing with people on the street. And that may not resonate the best when you're trying to find your B2B buyer. But I think the BetterWorks example was really good. I think also Shorts is a really great opportunity to partner with influencers. If anyone has seen, I think her TikTok name is Corporate Natalie. She has like really funny workplace related content, right? People like me laugh at it because I'm like, oh, relatable. But she also now is starting to do partnerships with like HR tech companies or somebody who might provide like something for the workforce to serve their content to their audience directly, right? So I definitely think these things are very like top of funnel, very brand awareness type video content, but it can be a great way to kind of win people over and showcase like company culture, personality, brand voice, and a little bit of thought leadership too. So kind of excited to see where it goes. I would love to do more work with shorts and experiment with it. I probably should just get over my fear and make a TikTok today. I don't know. Maybe I'll take this and I'll cut it up into TikTok reels or who knows, but I think it would be a lot of fun. I know we have just a minute or two left. Team, is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about that was YouTube related that I didn't ask you about today?
Did I mention lighting? Because I feel like I forgot. lighting.
Well, I don't think you did.
No. So I want to talk about lighting because it's also very important. Having a light source in front of you. I have a window in front of me, not behind me. So I'm not going to be like a creepy shadow figure. And making sure you have like a ring light, as you can get cheap lights on Amazon for like $12. Even using what you might have around you. Like I have a desk lamp. Grab stuff you have and put it in front of you. Make sure your background is well lit. I have a soft light behind me. And a good thing that I like to do to troubleshoot or to give myself like a preview of what I'm going to look like is use your laptop's feature. Like for Apple, it's whatever the photo booth or something like that, but it shows you your complete camera, so you will now know what do I have to move in the background, what do I have to adjust. That's coming at me? Do I have to move physical locations? So I would say use what you got, get a couple of extra things that are inexpensive, books and all of that kind of stuff, and you'll be good to go. Like, it's amazing. We went from like full big production studios, which are still needed and used, to having like, oh, just a dedicated room in our house, and we can do a lot with what we've got.
Yeah.
I'll say I checked my camera like 5 times before we started. So.
Yeah.
Same. And my equipment fell in the middle of that, so perfect.
All right.
There's my ring light, y'all, breaking the fourth wall or whatever.
Good example.
But now I've just got a tiny little light bulb inside lighting, so I'm sure y'all noticed this doesn't look as good as I looked earlier, but you can still see my face a little bit if I turn.
You're looking good.
We'll figure it out. Well, I think we're pretty much at time. I really appreciate everyone for sticking around with us today. Hopefully this has been helpful and you've learned some tips and tricks. Maybe you're ready to incorporate this in your 2024 strategy. If you have any questions that didn't get answered, or maybe you're like, I have a really unique situation and I want your take on it, feel free to reach out to us. We love working on video content. The RepCap team is always ready and available to help. So shoot us a note. You can catch us online at repcap.com. We are on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram, I think, maybe not anymore, TBD.
On YouTube.
But we're definitely on YouTube. Come subscribe to us. Like, we're YouTube creators now.
You can come watch this video on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Come comment on it and tell me how much you loved it. And feel free to connect with all of us on LinkedIn as well. I would love to hear from you and talk to you about some video stuff or podcasts or whatever other content you need.
Awesome. We can do it all.
We can do it all. Yeah. We love it.
We're happy about it. Yeah. We'd love to do it.
Exactly. Well, thanks, team, for joining me today. Thanks, everybody else. I hope you have a really wonderful rest of your week. And we'll see you all next time when we do another webinar.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.